on your point, that's more like gym culture, but like the actual sport of jiu-jitsu, is it a fight? I mean, I hear people say it's not because it's like, it's limited. But every sport outside of mixed martial arts, like mixed martial arts is like the like fighting. It's like the most you'll ever get to a street fight, right? And
least restrictive form of fighting is
yeah,
MMA.
least restrictive. It's least restrictive, like legal form of fighting, right?
Yeah.
And everything else is like.
Can I interrupt there just for a sec? Except in Washington State, where you can agree on mutual combat in a street fight.
Oh yeah. Well, that's not. But I mean, like in the sporting sense,
yeah,
right?
Sporting settings. But if you're in Washington and you're good at Muay Thai and the drunk guy steps up on you, yeah, just get a cop to get you the mutual agreement and then kick his ass. Don't do it. This is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. Welcome to the Oldhammer podcast where life meets the mats. My name is Sam. As always, I'm here with Gordan. Hey, what's up, Gordon?
Hey, Sam. I apologize. I have a cold, so if I sound rough, they're fairly understand me because of my voice.
We've got clear audio. We all have colds from time to time. We're just here to talk about what we like to talk about, which in this case is Jiu-Jitsu. And in this case, we've got a bit of a weird topic, I think, today. Something that I don't know everybody talks about, but it kind of stemmed from you were watching some Jiu-Jitsu stuff. I was watching some Jiu-Jitsu stuff on YouTube, and we kind of caught this together. And it stemmed into two different conversations that we were having. One was the anxiety you kind of get before you go and roll, and you kind of touched on this a little bit before in one of our earlier casts where I was thinking back and you were sort of doing you hadn't trained in a while. This was your first class back, and you were kind of beating around the bush getting to go into class, right? It wasn't exactly anxiety, like you weren't worried necessarily about your performance or anything, but it was that sort of lull, like, do I really need to go? No, maybe I could just go tomorrow. And that's a pretty low form, I would say.
Still anxiety, but it's a pretty low form of anxiety. It's like, it's not so much that like it's debilitating, but you got the butterflies for sure. If anything, I think everybody can sympathize with just jumping off a diving board, like if you're not afraid of heights, but if the diving board's high enough, you'll be like, oh, this is making me a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I'm going back to class tonight after the holidays, so I've had a little time off, just like a week and a half or something like that, where I haven't done really any training, and I've gotten a little bit of that. Am I going to be okay? And I know once I hit the mat, it's going to be fine, right? I'll warm up and I'll feel okay, but there is always that pre-anxiety, and I think some people have it way worse than others because they're thinking, well, I'm about to fight, right? I think there's a little bit of fight or flight or freeze in there. And we used to have a friend who will remain nameless for this particular cast. And any time before he went to competition, that anxiety hit hard.
Dude. Yeah, I remember. Like, I always had anxiety back in the day when I was competing. I only competed, like, 6-7 times. And the same guy we're talking about, dude, he was better than us. He was way better than us. And man, boy, did he almost he was about to puke right before he would go into the mats. Like,
I was bigger than him,
bad.
Which isn't saying much because I'm a pretty hefty dude. But I just only remember he would always used to practice his grips on me, and I'd just be standing there and he'd be grabbing the gi and testing his thing, and you could just feel the tense.
Yeah.
Balled up little fury, just like ooh, and I think it might have given him some brain fog when he actually stepped on, right?
Dude, it was like he was a different person. Like in class, he was the most chill guy. In training, he was just so cerebral,
so loose,
so relaxed, loose. Like, and he was a super flexible guy. Not very, relatively I wouldn't say weak guy, but very average. But his flexibility was amazing, and he was really cerebral in the way he trained. Like we all had at least 30-40 pounds in him. Sometimes we would have to really muscle out things against him, and it was it's kind of bullshit big man jiu-jitsu. But this guy, he went to comp. It was I think we rose to the expectations that we had for ourselves. He really fell to his own I think he wasn't just his own expectations, but the expectations I guess he thought other people had of him. So he really fell to those expectations, and that was really bad. And you know, when you first match is the worst, and first minute of every match will be. Once he got past that, it was just like
Yeah, yeah.
great. It was great. But for him, it was like the whole 5 minutes was like it was really bad for him. Like even after when he would lose or win,
Mm.
he'll walk off and he'll still be like he'll still be shaking from
Yeah,
nerves.
that
Like the
adrenaline.
adrenaline dump would be so bad, it was disgusting. Like he would be like you can feel him like shake. Like I was like that prior, and then 30 seconds in, I'm just like, oh, okay, guns blazing, let's go.
I was always, I guess, comparatively
That was better than
super
most of us.
relaxed when it came to
Yeah, you
competition.
were.
I was more nervous actually about going to class than I was about comp. And it's a weird thing. It's a weird dichotomy because at comp, for some reason, I didn't care if I won. I wanted to win, but I didn't care if I won because the competition didn't mean as much as performing in class to get the belt, or whatever it was. That was weird. Something just passed my garage door, fucking loud. Something in a boombox.
Fear, dude.
Anyways. So when I was at comp, like, I wasn't concerned about the next match. I wasn't concerned about, you know, doing anything other than what I was doing, right? So I didn't try to look at the other fighters. I remember one this guy started to do that thing, which if you're in a competition, don't be this guy. You might remember where he was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, we're about to fight. You know, about to compete.
Oh,
Oh, how you know? Where you
yeah.
from? What you doing?" And I was always just sort of like dopey before the match. I like just almost like exhausted, like tired or whatever. Like I just woke up from a nap. That was kind of a point, but like I was like, "All right, man, yeah, I'm Sam, whatever." Yeah, oh no, I turned Marcus, okay. And you were like, "Sam, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's asking questions. I don't give a fuck. And then as soon as the guy, the whistle blew, clap, whatever, go. It's time to go. Okay, now I'm awake. But
Some people just not deployed though. They're just gonna stop at you up. It's just one of those things. Like, oh, this guy's really nice, you know. And then it's
yeah,
kind of take you by surprise.
yeah, I guess he just didn't recognize that the Viking does not give a shit. But like my anxiety, which I did have, was anytime we went to class, because I guess for me, I knew the guys who were rolling there. I knew who I'd be, I could be competing against, and I knew they were better than me. Right? At competition, I knew well everybody's probably around my level. I can do something. So let's go for it. Except for that one wrestler who came in who was definitely a blue belt and sandbagged us all, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, he was gigantic, man. Like you're a big guy. He was like absolutely massive. I was like, holy shit, they kept me right. This can't be the right weight class.
Huh?
He was
Wait,
huge.
when did he start wrestling? When he was 4? The fuck is he doing here?
He was huge, man. I was like, dude, he is. Again, just remember him being like, just a head.
Yeah.
Even today, like I'm a lot bigger now than I was back then. I'm just thinking, like, yeah, he's still like huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a whole different thing. That I felt nervous about because I was looking at a barbarian in front of me. Just like, oh shit.
Tall too.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
he was like 6'2" or something like that.
I would have been nervous. I would have been nervous when you get like, oh my god.
But the nerves are something that we both deal with. Everybody deals with. I think you and I are a little less anxious than our buddy was. But
Oh yeah.
how do you handle it?
Sure.
How do you handle it? Like, is there a mental
Like now or
model?
before?
Well, let's do both. Let's do a comparison.
Well, before, like if we're talking about, like I used to get way more nervous going into competition than I did with training. Like by far, it was like 9 day. It would like I won't say 9 day, but it would like escalate really quick and come. Like I would just be nervous the whole time, the nervous the day before, and I wouldn't eat as much. Like you could tell, like I was nervous. And then, but what helped me was like getting my ass whooped first 2, 3 times at comp. Like I was doing nothing. I would like win one and then lose. I'll be out the next match, and then, or I'll lose. Like I remember losing first match of comp like 2 times in a row. I was really frustrated because like I wasn't performing in the way that I
You knew you could.
I wanted. I just didn't understand like what was going on. At least at the white belt, blue belt level, I was just like, what's going on here? Then what happened was like, I stopped caring. I remember talking to my then fiance. It was like, I don't care. I wanted to win the medal, but that's not the most important thing. I think I was more frustrated was that training and paying to compete, and I wanted to test myself. So told myself, it doesn't matter if I win the medal. It's better if I get like 6 fights in and I win 5 of those fights, like sub, whatever, and just win 5 fights and then I lose the 6th fight and don't get a medal. That's fine because at least I got to fight 6 times and then technically I'm like 5-1 that day and I did well. That was my more than anything. I wanted to perform well and I wanted to perform as many times as possible. Once I thought about that as my goal rather than to win was to perform well even if I lost, like as long as it was a really, really hard, like 5 minutes and I lost some points, or even if I got tapped out, I fought my best. Yeah, that was good. It was just that I was like really short from what I consider was what was a good performance for me. And then the medals came. I won the next 3 comps. It was like fine. I was like, then that's how I look at it. Just more like, am I performing the way I should, rather than I got win. That's a different. I think when you get to elite level or want to be at elite level, that's important. It's like, yeah, I have to win. You can't just be
Well, if there's money on the line, sure.
It's like, yeah, and not just that. Like, you can't be like, oh, I'm just going to casually participate, do well against a bunch of like black belts or high level black belts that want to snap my leg in half. It's like they're going to get your shit snapped up. You gotta have to have the mentality like, I am good enough to go against Gordan Ryan. That's or not that you're winning against him, but like I gotta be able to have that mindset, right? Or else those guys are pros, right? But if you're on anything in the color belt division, you have to basically like just be. If you're not like a high level guy or don't have those aspirations, then I think it's like your goals should be performance based, not like placement based, like medals. That's how I did it.
For me, I took 2 things from that, and I think I sort of did the same thing. But I was lucky in the fact that when I went to comp, I just didn't I kind of didn't care about the medal in the first place. I just wanted to fight because the only
not the key, not the good shit.
Yeah,
medal place.
But because I remember one time this kid got beat so bad by the guy who actually won this tournament I was in. I came in. I can't remember. He beat me by like a point or 2. But anyways, the fight he had after that, he whipped this kid so bad that I was supposed to fight him after, and he didn't show up. So that's the only time I was really disappointed in a competition because I didn't get to roll with this dude. Like, regardless, it was like it was very hollow for me. But in what you said, I heard 2 things. Sort of like if you're feeling really anxious, either let's say before class or for comp, there's one thing you do, which is reset your expectations, right? So that sounds like what you did was you rolled in and you were like, well, let's not worry about the next fight. Let's set my expectations for this competition, this first roll, and make sure that I put on a good performance and showcase my talents, as opposed to, I have to win this one to win the next one so I can get on the podium, right?
Yeah, sure. It's like you're like winning the. Excuse me. Cool. But like, you set your goal as to win the whole comp. Like, I got a goal. You're fucking $5 gold spray printed medal, and then you're like, oh, I gotta win this thing. Like, you're forgetting everything in between. You're like setting yourself up for multiple failures, especially if it's like 5-6 matches before you get to the final. Yeah. It's like, take one match at a time. It's like, I want to perform well. It's like, you can, those micro goals, like, I don't want to get taken down in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, oh, okay. Then you go minute by minute, and then you realize, okay.
Make small wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, small wins.
And
that was kind of my second point. You just said it there with the micro. Is so you've reset your expectations. Now shrink everything down. It's one thing I heard about anxiety in general is like anxiety is overwhelming. So if you're going to the mat for practice, let's just say you're going to class and you have this anxiety because after skills you're going to roll, right? Shrink everything down. Make it small because the world is big, but you can make it small, right? And that's sort of what you were just saying to me, I think. Is that if you're in class, you've done technique, now you're about to roll, and say you're about to roll with a higher belt. Well, shrink it down. Don't worry about his belt. Don't worry about. Don't worry about it, but those thoughts are going to come up. So maybe we can talk about a couple things, some things I do to push that aside, or at least not let it take hold. But shrink it down. Like, okay, the guy's a higher belt. What am I going to do? What am I going to do in the next 10 seconds, 15 seconds, right? Literally make it that small, right? I'm not going to get swept. You start on your knees in class. Okay, I'm just going to practice not getting swept because this guy sweeps me all the time. So I'm going to put my hips down, right? And just start making those small adjustments. That's one thing I think you can do. But I kind of cut into you there. But
No. You made a good point. Yeah, it's basically setting your expectations as low as possible. Not me, like, and then it's like more like task based. It's like incremental steps. Like even in like I told you, I didn't get nervous in training. Like with, oh, sorry, I would have some anxiety, some butterflies going to training because I knew it was like, I was not worried so much about like the hard training. I think it was just the feeling of like, I don't know. I think it was more like jiu-jitsu politics more than anything. Like I didn't want to tap to this one certain guy. It was like ego. And I think there was like a lot of ego and pride floating around back in old school days, and it was like the culture was cultivated like that. So I'm not going like I won't like single out anybody because like everybody kind of like had like yeah I don't want to talk to this guy because this guy's an asshole, and nobody's addressing the fact that he's a gigantic asshole or this person's an asshole. So and so now I got like
the problem with our old gym
I got two people today.
Is we didn't have
like old gyms were like that before though. Like old school gyms were like terrible with that.
The problem with our old school gym is there was no mat enforcer because everyone was a mat enforcer, and there were too many.
I mean,
too much.
They were mat enforcers, but it was like at the higher level, they wouldn't care about like once you got to a certain level, it's like you gotta have to have your own mat enforcer at that. But we were in the white belt, blue belt level, so like, and I just think that back then it was like you're a man, like figure it out, like this you're not a baby, and then so that was the culture. What now would be like stomped out. I think like at least where I train, where you train, it's like hey, don't be a fucking cunt. Like you're being a cunt. Like stop that. Like we can like you'll get pulled aside.
Like, you'll get told. Like if you don't get told, you'll get put in a very uncomfortable situation by somebody who knows how you put you there. To ensure that you're not being a dick. Yeah, just don't be a dick. You can roll hard. You should roll hard, but like you don't if you run in your mouth, right?
I don't understand. It wasn't even the run in your mouth. Sometimes you can like. I didn't mind the guys that ran their mouths, but they were really good about like training or like technique they were explaining to. The worst fucking problem was like motherfuckers giving you advice mid row and like pretty condescending like attitude like dude like state level and you got me in a half guard, deep half guard and you're locking it down. We're not attacking. You have locked down my leg in a gi. You're holding on for fucking dear life and you have like the fucking audacity to start giving me advice like 2 minutes into this row. If anything, I'm winning. Like if you want to play that, you want to be that like we're talking about pride and ego and stuff. Like I'm beating you up and you're giving me advice. What the fuck's wrong with you? Or you're stalling. You're stalling for like you're holding on to my pants and my lapel. Like it's a real competition. Like I can't even work. You're literally stalling just so that I don't pass your guard. You're not opening it. You refuse. Like there were guys that refused to open up the guard.
Yeah.
They would like clap down close guard. Like it was like their life. Like he would get raped or something by me if like they open their legs to like I'm like what the fuck dude, like I can't do anything. So now I have to like at 3 minutes breaking grips. That's fucking grips. Like and then that's all I done. Like now I want to row with you because this wasn't fun. This wasn't a training. It was like a Tom fight. Yeah. And like it was like that there's too many of those people. There's like one too many of those people. Like you got 2 or 3 of those in classes, so that sucks. But that's why I was nervous about it.
I talked about this a little bit on when I went up to Yellowknife and I rolled in the gym up there. There was one guy, it was black belt. Okay, so right off the bat, but he was one of those guys who did offer me tips while we were rolling. But there's if you're going to do something like that, one
needs to be significantly better than this.
Make sure you're the dude, the dude, the man, and also like there's a way where you can do it condescendingly. And a way where you can do it in an educational, considerate manner. The way this guy did it, obviously high level, knows how to teach, did it in a considerate, educational manner. Didn't harp the point, didn't give me a little diatribe. He was like, hey man, just move here. Like, here, good, okay, keep going.
Yeah.
Like super simple, super considerate. You know what? This is going to help you in the long run. Just, here's a tip, right? Versus what I know exactly what you were talking about, where it's like, oh well,
you know who I'm talking about,
yeah, I know who you're talking about. You gotta move your hand here and put your grip there, and then switch this. And if you're in this position on top of me, it's like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Dude, you have my leg clamped. Like fine. You say if he said all those things, because Elliot, he was great. He was great. He would give us advice.
Yeah.
But it was like he would open up so we can actually kind of do the thing.
Well, that's
And
the
then
other thing. If the person is just
that's
locking
the
down
difference.
and trying to educate you on how to pass their guard, but they're just clamped down for dear life, that's fucking dumb. If, in the case of the black belt I rolled with, he was like, do this, and then give
And
me
you
room
advance
to
the
do
position.
the thing,
Yeah, and you advance the position now. So like
and
he's actually
now I'm
put
in
himself
another
in a
position that I can
detrimental.
take advantage of, that he can
Exactly.
counter, and put it in a different position. Great! Now I've learned something, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and I think
Yeah,
maybe this is something to go back to the anxiety piece. Maybe this is something that people, new people who come into the mat, have a fear of. Is well, everybody knows more than me. Everybody is always going to know what.
It's probably true.
It's probably
You know,
true.
a bit of anxiety just being like the bottom of the bottom of the totem pole.
But that just goes back to resetting your expectations, right? So, what are your expectations? Are you expecting to go in there and be a prodigy? Even if you are a prodigy, you probably shouldn't have that mindset. You should probably go in there thinking, I'm bottom of the totem pole. Even for me, right? Like, what's my expectation? To learn, right? So, in coming back to jiu-jitsu, I did set the expectation for myself. Not going to worry if I get tapped by anybody. I don't care.
You have to. Yeah, I think that was our attitude change.
You know what? If a no strike white belt catches me in a heel hook, good for fucking him. Maybe he can only do it 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 times, but he got me that time. GG, homie. I didn't do the defense right. Thank you for showing me that, right? And then, of course, if you roll with the higher belts and they catch you in whatever it is, that's a learning opportunity. And I think that helps me push some of those thoughts, because you're going to have those errant thoughts come in. What if he taps me? What if he catches me here? What if I get put on my back? What if I get swept? All those things. And being able to focus on just that expectations, like what am I really here to do, right? It helps put some of those thoughts at ease, being like, well, you know what? None of these thoughts are just cars on a highway, and I'm on the side of the road watching them go by, because they don't matter to why I'm here, right? For class. And I think that I hope that helps if somebody's watching.
Sure. Like, I think for me now, I haven't competed because it's only been 2 months since I got back to like a real gym, real school. I mean, so my anxiety was just like expectations I had set for myself. It's like, I have to do well in training, like every single session. I think I told you, I mentioned this before on that episode. For like 2 to 3 weeks, I was just like so nervous. And then I think the first day I wasn't super nervous, and then I rolled really well the first 2 days. So the first week, basically, I remember I was rolling on the 3rd or 4th week actually, and they were like, I would be tapping out like weight belts, and I was so exhausted that they were asking me if I was okay after I tapped them out. They're like, "Yo, are you okay, man? Like, you need to relax." I was so wound up, and then I remember this one guy. He's a great training partner. He's a white belt. And he was like, I get to do all my moves against him, and he's pretty fit too. So like, there's like a level, like pretty decent level of resistance. And he's a good dude in general. And he was telling me, "Dude, you need to relax." I'm like, I could have taken it as a slight level. What the fuck is this white belt talking about? He's like, "Dude, like," but I took his advice. Like, I listened. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you were harder to roll against the first 2 days than you are now. You're like doing worse because you're so wound up. You just gotta relax. And then some other guys came up to me, and then. And one of the instructors, he overheard. He was like, "Yeah, man, you just gotta chill, like just flow." So I went home and thought about it. Like, you know what? My anxiety comes from like these expectations I have for myself. Like, your month back in training, it's been like a decade and a half. Like, why do you have all these expectations? It's like that's an old school way of thinking. You're like, now you got black belts getting tapped by blue belts. Like, if anything, the higher level you go, the more nervous you should be. Like,
because people are hunting you.
Yeah, you're just a blue belt, Gordan, and you haven't trained like a decade and a half. Like, officially you haven't. So relax, go and learn. This new meta, this new all this. Just relax. And I started doing that. Holy shit. Like,
whole new world.
Training has been, dude, since then, like 2 months since then, and it's been, I have progressed in my jiu-jitsu so much. Like, there was no way I could go against a purple belt before. Dude, like last night, I ran a purple belt ragged. I was like, oh my god, like I'm almost there. Then I went against it, like another belt, and I was on my back. I'm like, oh my god, I saw.
Styles do matter, but
So on top, like I'm almost there, like because I'm relaxed, right? Even though I'm back now, I'm super relaxed. Like, oh, I got my back taken in. Okay, so work through it. So I'm like, well, thanks for my life.
Well, that's
Better, so much fun though.
that kind of brings us to the other topic, which I think feeds into the anxiety. Is people consider jiu-jitsu, maybe not everyone, but people who enter into the martial sports arena consider jiu-jitsu. If you're new, they're like, well, I'm going to fight. Now, this has been something that a lot of people have, I think, discussed.
Oh, yeah.
Is jiu-jitsu fighting, which is where the anxiety comes from, I think, right? Because fighting in MMA, you have fight, flight, or freeze, or friend, but that one doesn't matter right now. Those are your 4 responses for everybody who's listening: fight, flight, friend, or freeze. And God hope you don't have a high freeze response. But that inherently comes with some level of apprehensiveness. But I'm not convinced jiu-jitsu is fighting. It's definitely a combat sport. It's definitely it's a physical sport. In some level, I know it's part of the fighting arena, but I think there needs to be a separation in my mind that helps me of, well, in class, it's not fighting. It's rolling. In competition, it's fighting. And I think that goes back to the expectations that you're setting, right? In certain other martial sports, say Muay Thai, is one of my other friends' example. Pretty sure sparring is just straight fighting.
Well, I think that's the culture that you don't want to be trophy here. I know in Thailand because like guys literally have like 2 or 3 fights and they fight every weekend, so it's like they can't afford to spar hard most of the time. Like most of their sparring leading up to their fights on the weekend, it's like really like heavy to the body and really light to the head. It's really playful and playful and playful and heavy. And they're not trying to kill each other. And then they basically, it's like, we're just going to work well. We'll go hard to the body, maybe we'll go, with the legs, and we'll wear shin pads with the gloves and whatnot, and then really just touch the chin. Just like, we're going to have to fight this weekend. You can't be like, CT, I need more CT than you already have. So they do that. So you see a lot of guys, they do spar hard, but most of the sparring is really like, the Westerners will be like, why do you do that? It's because most guys train like 3 days a week and have one fight every 2-3 months here. They're fighting every weekend. So, but then people say, well, how come their frequency and their training is so much and they're training so much on the week, like weekends, whatever, that they can't afford just to destroy themselves that way. So they develop this way of like really light sparring. And light as in like the head kind of thing.
The designated areas of that alone. You actually said something there that reminded me of something GSP said. I was listening to him, and he was like, when I go to wrestle or go to do practice jiu-jitsu or grapple or whatever, he says, when he asks somebody to roll, obviously he's a champ. That comes with a lot of, if you're going to roll with them, wrestle with them, you're going to have a lot of advantage because you're going against one of the goats, right? So the way he disarms that, he says, hey, you want to play? We'll play around. And it just kind of immediately resets the expectation between you and him of like, oh, we're not fighting, we're playing. Yeah, you're rolling, you're working, right? Yeah, you're rolling, it's tough, it's physical, but you're playing, right? It creates a loose atmosphere of this isn't as serious as you might think it is. Or you might set that expectation, set that mindset of how serious this really is. Gotta win, gotta fight for my life, can't have someone choke. No, we're just playing. We're playing, and that gives you the opportunity to learn and try and fail.
I think it's just changing culture, because like back in the old school days of Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, I think even way back in the day, Muay Thai, boxing, whatever the culture is, it's like every gym session, every training session is affected that. Like Jiu-Jitsu, old school Jiu-Jitsu is like you have to go in, out, or and then you have to like fight for your goddamn life, like the night about. Yeah, every day was like you were not to fuck around, and now like go there, you can. At least where I train, it's like so relaxed. Like to the instructor, I just call him by his first name. He doesn't even want to be like he's like the most official title he wants. Like he'll allow is like coach. But even that, I think he's like not
I'm just.
Oh yeah, just call me by my name, and that's it. And then we train, and it's great. It creates a great learning environment, and then the rest of the new people are less like because the shit jumps up to the top, right? Yeah. But about your point, that's more like gym culture. But like the actual sport of jiu-jitsu isn't a fight. I mean, I hear people say it's not because it's like it's limited. But every sport outside of mixed martial arts, like mixed martial arts, is like the cornucopia of like fighting. It's like the most you'll ever get to a street fight weapons, right? And
least restrictive form of fighting is
yeah,
MMA.
least restrictive. It's least restrictive, like legal form of fighting, right?
Yeah.
And everything else is like.
Can I interrupt there just for a sec? Except in Washington State, where you can agree on mutual combat in a street fight.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
Sorry,
but I mean, like in the sporting sense,
in
right?
A sporting setting. But if you're in Washington and you're good at Muay Thai and the drunk guy steps up on you, yeah, just get a cop to get you the mutual agreement and then kick his ass. Don't do that. This is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer.
I don't live in the fighting. You go bring weapons, like I see guys swing batons. I don't think about that.
Yeah, they can bring. Shoot. Sorry.
Back to my point though. No, it's good. Back to my point though, is that I think jiu-jitsu is a fight. People say, well, there was another podcast to listen to, like Bulletproof
great
BJJ,
podcast,
and then
BJJ.
yeah, great podcast. We love them.
Yep.
And then I think JT, right? Was it JT?
He's always on the right?
Yeah. The main guy.
JT.
My field. Yeah. He said that it's not a fight because there's no
damage.
He's not even. There's no. Well, there's damage. There's heel hook. There's damage. There's no strikes. There's no strikes and stuff.
There's no.
Here,
I found it a difficult argument he was making. To be honest.
This is my counter argument to. Well, boxing has no grappling, and in mixed martial arts, if you're using mixed martial arts as the gold standard, which in my opinion it should be.
Oh, he got that right. Yeah.
Is boxing not a fight then? Oh no, it's just a boxing. No, boxing is a fucking fight. Like.
Well, yeah, you can.
Not only a fucking punch.
You can do that.
But the thing is, like.
Combat.
Yeah, but then it's limited. Is boxing more of a fight than Muay Thai? Than Muay Thai is Muay Thai the only striking sport that is legit because they can
Taekwondo, especially Olympic Taekwondo. Very few strikes to the head, mostly to the body. Lots of kicks, not too many punches. Right?
Yeah. Was judo not considered a fight? And these are all these are very restrictive sports.
Yep.
But if you can hurt someone. Even though it's very limited, like boxing, you can't even do elbows, you can't even do spinning back fists in boxing. It's only straight punches. I mean, like they have to go forward. Like, if boxing is so limited that you can't do a spinning back fist, and like you can't throw elbows, like you can't grab the head, you can't do dirty boxing like back in the 1910s or whatever. Yeah. Like guys were just like grabbing each other's head, collar ties, and feeding punches. Wow, that would change the game completely, right? Yeah. Like look at bare knuckle boxing, right? But so is bare knuckle boxing more of a fight? Maybe, but boxing, pure boxing with 10 ounce, 12 ounce gloves, whatever, 8 ounce gloves, it's still a fight. It's just the rule sets are the rule sets, so it's limited. But jiu-jitsu is the same way. It's still a fight. But as much as I detest pulling guard and butt scooting, but butt scooting is fucking retarded. Like Conor Gracie in scooting, you saw the fight, he butt scooted in the UFC fight, and I was just like, oh my god, it's so embarrassing. As jiu-jitsu practitioners, we're just like, please don't do that.
But here, you never saw that in Pride. You almost never saw the butt scoot in Pride because they had the head kick, the soccer kick rule. You could stop.
A knee to the head on the ground, like dude, that was
But in UFC, because of the yeah, it would be a death sentence. But in the UFC, because of the Nevada State Gaming Commission, you could try it because no knees, no kicks to the face, no stomp, right, for safety. Yeah. Now, I'm agreeing with you on pretty much every point. Jiu-Jitsu is a fight. It's a fight. Because if you do say, well, it's not fighting, then yeah, where do you draw the line? Is MMA the only actual form of legal fighting? No.
Yeah, then everything else is like what you're training for. Then why are you just like it's not fighting, and then suddenly if you combine it all, it's fighting? What the fuck is that? That makes no sense.
I agree. I think what maybe the point he was trying to make, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, was that jiu-jitsu in general is a less punishing combat sport on your opponent than, say, boxing. Because you're striking to the face and the body in boxing, which, by the way, you can't punch somebody in the leg in boxing. Okay.
No, not punch, but strike, like you have the leg kicks, yeah.
Yeah, there's none of that. Basically, the legs are ignored. Anything below the belt. So, like, that's pretty restrictive, but people still consider boxing a fight, right? And I think it's because, in general, boxing has more of an immediate punishing impact. Whereas jiu-jitsu, if you choke somebody out, well, you choked them out, they're probably going to be okay. There's not really going to be any brain damage. They might have a sore throat. they don't have black eye or CT or any of this stuff, right?
I mean, yeah,
But that doesn't
but
mean
like
it's not a fight.
yeah, like if your whole point is to hurt someone, it's a fight. Like what instrument I choose to hurt you with is a different, different matter. But like if I'm there to hurt you and you're there to hurt me, yeah, it's just you know what the great part about jiu-jitsu is that you can technically go hard every day, like balls to the wall, like old school jiu-jitsu, and that's a fight. And what's it called? Like the great part about that, to a certain degree, your body will get destroyed, but like eventually, well, but like the whole point is that what I'm trying to make is that great part about jiu-jitsu or grappling in general is that you can spar every single day, balls to the wall. If you spar balls to the wall in any striking sport every single day, you will be brain dead before you get to your 20th fight. You'll be so destroyed. Like look at all those old school boxers. Like they're going balls deep in sparring,
punch drunk, basically,
and then they go balls deep in. Then they're like like they have 50, 60 professional fights, and now, my boxing coach, Tony Pat, like he was great. He was like anybody who just look up Tony Pat in Canadian boxing. God was a great fighter, man.
You went to the Olympics, right?
No, not Olympics, but he had one of the smaller titles in boxing. He did like a bit of
somebody else,
and they came out and then 8 weeks and fought Floyd Mayweather for the decision. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that from what I hear now, he had like 60 something fights, and he had like almost 100 amateur fights. And by the time he got to now, he's like in his 60s now. I think like there's some things off. He's taken so much damage, and he's a very good defensive fighter. So if it's someone who's considered a pretty good defensive fighter during his time as like CTE, fuck man, like.
So yeah,
that's a great part of grappling. Our chances of getting CTE are fairly low, unless you get like guns, like knocked their head over.
To the face.
Yeah, but like in general, like we get to practice our sport more often. People say, "Oh, and we get to go hard in it." Just because we don't get CTE doesn't mean it's not a fight. Like if I go against a black belt judoka, like he doesn't have to be like freaking. Like he can be a recommendation of a black belt, and he decides to Uchimara me into the earth.
Yeah, he's gonna.
And I get, I'm basically destroyed. Or like, is that not a fight? Is that not a fight? Like how about a collegiate wrestler decides to suplex me, it's suplex city on concrete. That's fight, man. Like there's a repercussion to it. People consider wrestling a combat sport, but in jiu-jitsu, people say, "Well, we can't do slams. There's no slams." Well, in ADCC you can slam. In ADCC, it's the Olympic of submission wrestling, which that to me is the gold standard because I'm an OE guy, and if in ADCC you can fucking slam people, hey, like that's jiu-jitsu, that's wrestling, that's all the time. It's submission wrestling. So that's a fight.
That's what I think the point he was trying to make was about the amount of punishment and the rule set. But it's all still fighting. It's just a degree, I think. So, like, again, in class, you're not going to slam your partners, right? You might pick them up, get ready for the slam, and then let them down, because you're not going to be, to what we were talking about before, you're not going to be a dick to your training partner. Then you're going to get hurt by your enforcer, right? So don't be a dick to them. So in class, is rolling a fight? No, it's playing, it's practice, it's rolling, right? It's rolling. You're still fighting, but you're not doing all the things to create punishment. It's still a fight, but it's a very limited form of fighting because it's playing. It's you're rolling to learn. Once you get into the ADC, you can fucking slam. You can dump somebody on the head. If you can suplex, which is it's a really good skill, hard to learn, hard to perform, to be honest. But if you can do it, you can do it. You can dump somebody.
Yeah, I would like to see someone got in a fight with like a pretty good jiu-jitsu practitioner. Even it doesn't mean it could be like a purple belt or even a blue belt like me. If I were to kick you out, take you to the ground, say I gently put you down, okay, and then I get you decide. I'm nice about it. Then I get on mount. Like how Matt Sarah put that guy in that Vegas. He just played around. Look, and then I just mount you. I don't throw any strikes. But then, you know what? I'm gonna get off mount you. And then I decide to Kimura your fucking ass, and I don't let go. I'm gonna snap it. Then I'm gonna go to the other side, and I'm gonna snap your other arm. Now you got two floppy arms. You can't wipe one ass. You can't jerk off. You can't do anything. You're basically like your body's invalid. Trust me, you're gonna feel like you've been in a fight. If I decide to neck crank you, like how about I just get you to sign up, I grab, put you in the crucifix, and I don't. There's no tapping in the street, so I just crank. I'm trying to break your cervical spine. You're paralyzed from neck down. But you best believe you just got in a fight. You just got destroyed in a fight. Yep. And as you're paralyzed from neck down, I fucking could slip my dick in your ass and you couldn't do anything about it. You'd be raped. So what I'm trying to say, that's a fight right there. It's just like, in Jiu-Jitsu, they don't allow, like, you're allowed to give up to fight another day. People, and I think that's the point. I think that's the culture of, like, oh, you can just cut. Yeah, you're right. I would like to keep my ACL intact so that I can go and train. And then one day I could be the one applying that, like a heel hook on you or a knee bar. It allows you to get better at sport without dying.
Yeah, there's something my coach said that's resonating with me right now, where he was like, well, we were in the 80-20, and he's like, well, first go for this leg lock, right? Because gi versus no gi, there's different rules, right? And for lower belts, you can't do heel hooks, right? In gi. In most competitions.
I think it's dumb. It's really dangerous.
We can talk about rules.
Yeah,
we can talk about rule sets another day. But he's like, so now you're probably not going to get him to tap from this, right? Unless either he doesn't know what you're doing, right? So you apply it perfectly and he doesn't know how to defend it. But if he knows how to defend it, you're not going to get it. Or even if you get it like 60%, if he's only going to tap if he's not mentally tough. And I think that's what people forget about Jiu-Jitsu, is when you get put in some of these holds or some of these positions, like a neck crank, there is for people who haven't done it, there is a threshold in my mind where this is fine, it's very uncomfortable, it might even be painful, but this is fine. I'm okay.
Yeah. I
can still breathe out of one nostril. I have a little bit of like a millimeter of wiggle room. I'm okay, right? Then they put it on perfectly. Shit. Now I'm going to tap. Why? Because I don't want you to separate my C3 and 4, right? That's a safety thing. So the people who say, oh, well, you can just tap. Yes, but also why? Like, you haven't thought about why you're tapping. You're tapping because either something is about to break completely, you're about to go unconscious, or maybe you are just a quick tapper because you don't know how far you can push something before you have.
I'm like that with leg locks, man. Like, if you give me a heel hook and I can't figure out how to get out within like 10 seconds, and I can't roll all of it.
10 seconds is a long time, man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, it's less than 10 seconds. Like, if I'm not actively defending it and roll.
I was rolling with
another
before I went up north.
I like to keep my knee.
Yeah, I was rolling with another coach. He put me in a heel hook. I defended the heel hook, got my knee past his leg, but it was still on his thigh. He switched to I don't know what it was, but like a toe hold. And I was like, nope! Tap, tap, tap. I defended the heel hook by a centimeter. Otherwise, I would have tapped. Yeah. And then he grabbed my, I felt my Achilles compress, and I was like, oh, no, we're good here.
Yeah, and I think, I'm pretty surprised, I'm pretty surprised when Jiu-Jitsu guys, like black belts, say, oh, Jiu-Jitsu isn't a fight. But most of these guys have done MMA, and it's like, yeah, well, obviously compared to MMA, like, if you only did Kyokushin karate, which is like a brutal form of karate, which I consider as a fighting art, like, that's what one of the GSP's black belts, he said. I mean, I don't want to get fucking kicked by some Kyokushin, like, karate black belt or even a lower belt. I've seen some of how brutal that shit is. Like, they do hard sparring, like 100% below the neck, and then they go in, like, full-on body shots. Like, some of their things they do to condition their body is absolutely brutal. I don't remember any part of that.
Weird front leg kick to the top of the knee. John Jones did that to Rampage. And, like, that's a career-ender kick, if you've seen that.
Yeah, like, Khalil Rountree did that to some other guy and just not leg in half.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that, like, how can you train all these limited forms of fighting and not consider fighting, but when you do mixed martial arts, now it's fighting. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
the technique still applies.
Yeah, you still do the same thing. Now, in terms of the strategy, like, both, there's no secret. We're both like to be on top, We like to do the pounding. We don't want to be on the bottom. There's no spread ego from us, We spread the ego, so to speak. So for us, we're not pulling guard. In training, I will pull guard to train my guard because the sport dictates that I need to be good in guard. But if I get in an MMA fight, if I get a street fight, pulling guard.
You're not pulling guard.
Look,
You're not going to half guard so you can do a swing.
I'm not pulling no fucking half guard. Half guard is like detrimental in a street fight and in MMA. You just sit on your leg and just fucking feed you punches. Like
That's why
you against a fucking nobody, and then in the street fight I pull half guard. Oh, that guy's gonna be like fucking Khabib. I'm gonna feel like Khabib's on top of me and fucking pounding my face or fucking Tom Jones. Like that's not the way you fight.
But that's why you train half guard in the gym. So if you go into an actual fight, or I shouldn't say actual fight, if you go into a higher level of fighting or a less restrictive level of fighting, let's say that, a less restrictive level of fighting, why did you practice all that time in half guard? Not so you can pull half guard, but for some godforsaken obstacle or error, you end up in half guard. It's so you can get out of it, so you don't get your face pumped.
Yeah, not staying in it.
You're not staying
in the sport of jiu-jitsu allows you. It's like how like in boxing, they have an arch on bladed stance and they clinch when they need to and they do referee break. This is a referee break in the street fight or MMA, like in terms of like clinching, that actually keeps going. So why do you train it in boxing all the time? That's part of the rule set. It's like people consider wrestling like staple of combat sports, and it is a combat sport. But the wrestler's position, if you're familiar with it, with on all fours with your ass down, it's like you're not doing that in a street fight. You're not practicing the wrestler's position. It's like in the match in street fight, it's like, okay, you can tip my back and I'm gonna sail from this. I'm like, what the fuck? Like that's not happening. But they train it in
you're not gonna
wrestling.
ass first into somebody in MMA, right? Well, maybe
you're not gonna
get kicked in the.
Well, that's why nobody with like sense, which is why I'm really surprised by Conor Gracie, is to full guard and butt scoot across the floor.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. That if you take that few examples, like even back in the day, Grace Gracie wasn't butt scooting. He was punching, kicking. He would grab you. Yeah, he would pull guard, but he wasn't like I'm going to fucking butt scoot across the fucking cage.
Now that
even he doesn't do that.
Yeah, but now that the sport has evolved and people know what that means, you don't see it. You don't see it anymore. Why? Because it's not.
Yeah, back in the day when nobody knew what jiu-jitsu was, no one was butt scooting. So that was just like he went that way far.
Yeah. So if you're pulling guard against somebody who doesn't know what the fuck's going on, okay, maybe. But like nowadays, a lot of people know what pulling guard is, so they're going to feed you elbows on the way down. They're going to
just pull guard.
They're going to smash you. They're going to start feeding some elbows, right? Like
no, I think it was the fucking butt scooting and pulling guard away with no contact. Like if you're pulling guard, like chest to chest, and you pull guard, and then now you close guard, and then you work on submission. Like a lot of these guys are like rolling into like guards and like literally fucking butt scooting across the floor. I'm like no, that's the problem with jiu-jitsu. Sport jiu-jitsu now is like jiu-jitsu, sports jiu-jitsu, which is sport onto itself, and then there's actual like jiu-jitsu for like MMA.
Well,
because like that's why I like combat jiu-jitsu. It's like you see people going for leg locks in combat jiu-jitsu, and leg locks are great. But like, so this one girl, she got like pulverized. Like the girl had her leg lock. She turned around. She didn't even fight it. She just started. Palm strikes this girl into oblivion, and the girl she let go and covered up, and then she got her leg back, and just like fed her, and like now she has her back and just beating her palm strikes. Like that's why you don't see too many. You do see leg locks in MMA, but you don't see so much of it. Yep. It's more like the rear naked choke, arm bars, and stuff like that.
It's a matter of safety. Like if you are an excellent leg lock practitioner, you can put it on somebody in half a second. Okay, but I don't think a lot of people practice that stuff anymore at that level, so you don't see it as much. There's a lot more setup. So you're right about sports jiu-jitsu, and I think that's just an evolution of the sport, right? So is it still fun?
Yeah,
yes, absolutely. But it's an evolution of the sport, and as more competition come up, you have different rule sets, and people will always optimize their training for competition within that rule set, right? They will. Yeah. Humans have the innate need to gamify their sport, and that's by taking advantage of the rule sets, right? That's why you see weird shit happening. You saw it in powerlifting for a long time, not to get off topic, because I think we're coming near the end here, but like that's why people were doing super wide grips, real arch back, and about 2 inches of movement, right?
Yeah, so, they tried to close distance.
They tried to close distance to maximize movable weight, but then they were sacrificing range of motion, but it was legal within the rule set until they recently changed the rule set, right? People will do that. In any system, they will look for the gaps and take advantage of that. And that's why I think you're right. A lot of people are like, well, it's not fighting anymore, because why are people butt scooting across the map? It's within the rule set.
I mean, you could stand in a super bladed position in boxing for MMA, like you would if you practice boxing. But yeah, you'll get leg kick in there. You can stand with your hands down, like in Taekwondo. You can do all that in an MMA fight. Should you do it?
Probably not.
No. You can like assume the wrestler's position, like midway through, like you run to the middle of the cage and just give your ass up to like your opponent. The opponent's like, what the fuck's going on? It's like, oh, you wrestler's position, grab my waist. You can do all that. But you shouldn't. Like how you shouldn't butt scoot. You shouldn't probably pull guard in MMA. And those are the things. Like you just choose what works in the sport, like your martial arts and your sport of choice, and then you take what's useful and then discard what isn't. I think that's Bruce Lee saying.
Well,
That's the
that's a
thing.
general philosophy of life. Takes what's
Yeah.
useful, don't use what isn't. I think on that note, we're gonna call this one a wrap, and I think both of us come to the conclusion that yes, jiu-jitsu is fighting. It's a level of fighting. There's different levels, but it's still a combat sport. It's still in there,
Oh yeah,
and that
sure.
comes with some anxiety. But you can get over that anxiety by resetting your expectations, and making your huge jiu-jitsu world a little smaller and a little more focused. Let's recap.
For sure.
Anyways, thank you all for listening. Like, subscribe,
Thank you.
ring the bell for notifications. We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. See you guys.